Hello and welcome to the Srijan Wednesday webinars. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a community initiative by Srijan Technologies where you can tune into some great sessions on topics ranging from front-end technologies, UI UX, mobile apps to media, entrepreneurship, community building and digital marketing. Our speaker today is Karim Fanadka. He is a DevTest manager at HPE Software and his team is responsible for testing their SaaS product, the StormRunner Load. And today, Karim will share his experience of building a QA team that is agile, efficient, and uses the latest testing frameworks. He will also talk about continuous testing, automation, test-based analytics, and hotfixes. Before we get started with the session, I would request all participants to type in your questions that you have during the session and we'll take them up in the last 15 minutes of the session. Also, don't forget to take the conversation live on Twitter using our hashtag SrijanWW. You can also share your thoughts by tagging us in your tweets using our handle @Srijan and Kareem's handle, which is up on your screens right now. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. Kareem, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Karim Fanadka and today we are going to speak about building a high-performance QA team. And this from my experience in the last 3 years. A little bit about myself. I'm in current job today. I'm working at HPE Software almost for 7 years, even more. And at the beginning I was a QA engineer testing LoadRunner product, one of the famous performance tools around the world. And then we started building a new product called StormRunner. And the StormRunner is a SaaS product for load testing. And I'm actually the manager of the DevTest team. It's a QA team that tests this product. And a little bit about myself. As you can see, I like to travel a lot around the world. And just to let you know me a little bit more. We are going to speak today about SaaS, Software as a Service, Agile, and modern QA, because the QA today should be changing in these days, be more modern, with more skills, and I will talk about this later. Automation, that's something that was before and still exists, but why it's more critical in these days. Environments that keep changing. For example, we have a SaaS product and it also uses cloud machines, then we also as a QA should know how to handle these changes. Continuous deployment. As you know, today products and the managers don't want to hear that we want to deliver in 1 year. They want to hear only 1 month and even less. Even sometimes they talk about weeks. Then we should understand how we can build this infrastructure that also QA can work with it. And the most important, hotfixes. As you know, if a customer have a bug, you don't want to wait 1 year. You want the fix in the same day. Then I will show you how we can handle this in 1 day. Okay, software as a service. Currently at HPE Software, we are trying to move all our products or building a new product that it's based on SaaS, or to move a current product to be software as a service. And just to explain what it means, before SaaS, when it was on-premise, most of the customers needed to download something to install or to have a CD. That once we did it even with LoadRunner. And the problem with this issue, that if a customer have a defect, then we want to fix something, it will take a while because we need to fix the defect, to upload a page, to give it for one customer only, but we can, update for all the customers, and it's a little bit tricky for customers that want to be updated all the time. And in these days, when we are using a software as a service, we just remove this thing, no need to download, and we have the infrastructure at our company. Then we deploy the product at HPE Software, and we have a firewall, services, databases, file system, and as you know, if I have a defect, then I can fix it in one of this area that you can see here, and then the users can enjoy this fix for everyone and not only for one customer. If we will take an example for email, for example, Outlook is something that on-premise, and if we can also see that we have a Gmail for Google, that it's a software as a service that you can log in anywhere and you can enjoy the new features that they deliver every week or every month. About StormRunner, it's the product that we are testing in my team. One day before 3 years ago, this is a real window in the company, in the offices that we work at. Somebody from the architecture start designing a new product. It's for load testing, performance testing, but based on cloud. And this is a screenshot from the product. I'm not going to speak today about the product. I just want you to understand the architecture of the product because it will help us to understand how a QA team can handle this kind of applications. And what you can see, it's a web application that you can log in from web, and then you just need to upload a script. Script is a performance script that was recorded using our tools at HPE. And if you have recorded, for example, a scenario for login, that you log into, for example, buying a new shoes, a scenario, then you can here configure how many virtual users you want to run, and the latency, and if you are using a mobile or not using a mobile, like network virtualization, stuff like that. And in real time, you can see that you get the results directly. You don't want to wait until the test is done. Because if you want to wait like 3 hours, then you will find out in the end that this test was damaged or the script is not maintained well, then you will lose the 3 hours of running. And this is a new product that we are testing. And the most important thing in this product and the most challenging for my team for testing, that we are using the cloud for simulate the virtual users. As you can see, we support about 15, even today we support 17 locations around the world. And each location is or Amazon or Azure of Microsoft. And in this case, for example, if you want to run 1 million virtual user, then we will start a lot of machines in each one of the locations according to what you choose, to what distribution you want to use. And imagine that we have many, even sometimes 400 or 500, sometimes 1,000 machines in the cloud in the same hour that we want to load. And for us, it's a little bit challenging. And in the next slides, I will show you how we can handle this stuff. In addition, as I showed you before, that Storm is a SaaS product, but it's have one more layer extra. It's the cloud, because we have another layer that when you click run test, we are running a machines in the cloud. Then it's a little bit more even challenging for us to test. Okay, now this product, because it's a new, then we built it to be delivered very fast. And when I mean fast, I mean one and a half months. We release a new version that have a lot of features and content. Let's take a look what we had before. Once, like LoadRunner that we used before, we delivered one, even sometimes 2 major releases to production in 1 year. And this is the best case that we offer ourselves. Let's take a look what we are doing today. Then our product Storm have a code name that we keep using with each version. And 2 years ago, we released the first release that called Allocate in December. Then in February, we can see that after 2 months, we have another release. Then I know that you can't answer, but in case that you was wondering what is the next release name, then it's a games that you can see that A, B, C, and it's 80 games. And you can see that in March we released the Commander Keen version, and it's 1 month only between them. And then we keep continue April, then June, and in August. And as you can see, just for feeling, we have many releases in 1 year. Then our customers they are very happy because they just ask for one feature, then we decide to deliver in the next release or next release. Then the customers wait for us because it's only 1 month or 2 months. Then no need to leave the product because there is nothing updated. And if they have a defect, then we just can fix directly or just wait for the next release. And we update customers that you can wait, the fix will be very soon. And we can see that we have 6 major releases to production in 1 year. And it's a lot of releases for an enterprise product. We are not talking here about a website, like a news website or something. We have a lot of difficult infrastructure that based on the cloud, on SaaS, with databases, firewalls, and stuff like that that I showed in the slides before. Then what kind of challenges we have as a QA team? Let's see. Test new features, something that everybody know about that. Test regression, because the most important thing is to make sure that the base product was not damaged. Automation that we should do. We should handle environments. We should do continuous integration and delivery. We need a hotfixes for customers. We need a data migration, because when we move from version to next version, we should keep the data safe. Performance testing, security testing, and globalization, documentation, and more. And all what you can see here, instead of doing that in 1 year, we should do it in 1.5 months. And it's a very, very challenging. And here I come from my experience. As I mentioned, 3 years ago, we started working on StormRunner, and my job was to build the first team at HPE that handled this kind of challenge. Then my solution is building a new modern QA team. That the code name that I'm used for that, it's a DevTest. I use this word because actually the modern QA team have the skills of developers and also for testing. And even more, I will show you now what it means. First of all, we have a very good product knowledge, end-to-end knowledge and understanding of the product under test. We should be very clear about the product that we are testing, and the QA, as I mention always, it's a customer. He's the first customer that work with the product, and he should understand what customer feels. And more important, when he have a responsibility in a new feature, he should understand this feature very deeply from the technical side, from the backend side, and also from the customer view. And product architecture, because without knowing the architecture, it's a little bit tricky to understand how to write tests, and even API test or UI test. Let's move to customer. As I mentioned also, we need to understand how the customer uses this product, because we are testing the product to feel customers. And we need to understand how they are using, and therefore we have a meetings with customers. Each release, we set 3 or 4 new customers or even exist customers, and we communicate to understand what are the main flows that they are using. In this way, we can focus in the test and where to focus also in automation, because these areas are the most important because are more used by customers. Next, we are moving to DevTest. DevTest, I mean the coding skills, the ability to write in automation. In my team, we are writing JavaScript, and we are using a new modern frameworks. Therefore, we are using also, by the way, the same coding language as the developers. And we find that this is very critical, because when a QA or a tester want to write a new automation, then he can get help from developers because they have more experience in coding. Then it's more powerful to have in the entire team, the testers and the developers writing the same language. And something important, we also have a design a focal point. In each team, we have somebody that have a lot of experience in manual testing, not automation. And he are responsible to write all the design for the test automation. It means that he take a feature and he start writing for this feature all the tests that he need to be automated. Then the guys from the code that have more code skills, they take this design and they start writing this automation, and this way we can make sure that we are covering a very good cover for this feature. And the most important thing in my eyes, I think, it's a DevOps. If you don't know what it means DevOps or what they are doing in the daily work, then it's a little bit difficult to understand what to ask them because we don't understand what they are doing. Then they actually are responsible for the CI/CD pipeline that include Jenkins, Git, and stuff like that. Then my team also have this experience that know how to use Git and how to use Jenkins. And in this way, the communication between the teams are more engaged and better than before. Security. Actually, we have a basic skills of security. At least we can take a look on basic stuff in security and to understand that what we have and delivered by developers, it's enough good for security. The same for performance. Therefore, we have courses that we do to understand what these two areas are meaning for the daily work in the product. By the way, we have, because we are in an enterprise company, we have a security team and we have a performance team that they help us to do this stuff. But what I meant here in the security is like the basic flows that we need to understand. If we get an API that is not secured, at least to understand that it's not enough to deliver now, it's not finished, then we just ask the developer to do more work to finish it and deliver it again. I will leave this present slide and I will move to training. Then the team, even if the engineer is like new, he just a graduate, or even he have a more experience in testing or developing, then he must do this training. The training is a long list. I just bring to here a small amount of items. But let's take a look for the items that we give as a training. For 2 months, this training is like 2-month training. Then the engineers start working. As you can see, we have, because I mentioned before, we are using JavaScript, but you know, in different teams should be different languages maybe. But you can see that we are using JavaScript. We are learning HTML, CSS, XPath, Node.js, and we give also exercise. And we are also learning about REST API, about SQL, database, and you know, all is customized according to the product. If we have a different product, then we should update this training. But the training is very long items, and we have many sessions, but we keep focus in developing skills, DevOps, and testing. And the most important thing is the product, to understand what the product do and how to understand the end-to-end flows. Okay, I like this slide very much. It's a continuous testing. We are using Git to save, our source code is saved in Git. And I want to show you an example that let's say that we today delivered a new release. Then from now, how we are going to start working on the next release. Then what we are doing, take a branch from the master, and we say, okay, we have 1.5 months to deliver the new release. Then what we should do now? Then the developers start developing the new code because we have an items that should be delivered. Meanwhile, each time that he push a new code, our automation in the CI/CD pipeline, the DevOps team that built this pipeline, it managed to run all the automation that we have. Actually, it's not all because it's like daily pushes. Then we have like an amount of number that we run that cover the main flows. After that, the tester can deploy this product. It will take like 7 minutes to run all the automation that we have because we are running parallel automation. Then the tester now can't communicate with the developers. He just need to pull the new code after the automation. And also we have a machines that deployed automatically after each push. And this, in the end, we don't miss to do a regression. We have 5 days that we do, all the team do a regression test. It's a manual regression test in addition to all the automation that we have. It's just to keep to make sure that everything in the right place, all the colors are okay. Sometimes the automation can't cover everything. Then we take this 5 days to cover everything that was not covered by automation. And then we just push the product to production. But this flow that I mentioned now, it's only, I show you just one developer, one tester, but you know, products are not 2 engineers at total, then we have more. Then this thing is happening many times a day. Imagine like an example that we have 30 developers, then these 30 developers are pushing new code in more than one time a day. And the automations run like many times a day. Then let's see what's the number of the builds that we have in one release. Then in 1.5 months, we have about 1,400 builds that, builds, it's like automation and Jenkins that was running and building the new product. And it's a little bit massive for 1.5 months. And what you can see, the difference between full and commit, the full is each 3 hours. We run all the automation that we have. The commit is like every push that the developers do. The difference between them is amount of the automation that we are running, because each commit that happen many times a day, we want to do it faster. And the full is running in the background all the time, like 3 times a day. And each time that it runs, it deploy in all the machines that we have in the lab. But as I mentioned before, each one of the engineers, the testers, can just pull the code anytime that he wants. If he wants to coordinate with the developers, he just can take the code in 1 minute from the developer. Okay, now we are going to talk about the automation that we have in my team. First of all, this is a graph that showing the automation. As you noticed before in the slide of the versions that we have, the first one was allocate. And when we start working, it was a very small product, and we have 0 automation. And from that day, I understand something, that if I don't increase the automation, then I will keep testing manually. And if I will keep testing manually, then the regression will be huge. And because of that, we can deliver in 1.5 months. Then I will be a holder for all the product. Then I just keep pushing the engineers to the skills to be higher and higher and higher. And then we start increasing in the automation. And we are currently in the name of this last release is Monkey Island. Then now we have thousands of automation tests. And you can see the yellow one is the client, the UI automation that we have. The blue is the backend, it's the API automation. And the green one is the cloud automation. And I will give you an example later about what the cloud automation, because this challenge I showed you before, that we have many locations in the cloud and how we need to test it, okay? And it's another example that I mentioned before, that in other release than I showed before, we have about 1,617 builds, and this number is a huge. And imagine that the CI/CD pipeline is like keep running all the day. It's non-stop. Okay, this slide is talking about the automation coverage. As I mentioned before, when we was talking about building a team that have a different kind of skills. And in my team, I have 2 engineers that have a lot of experience in testing, and they know how to write a full coverage for a feature. In this slide, it's a Word file that inside this file you can see, it's very small, but I will explain to you. It's like exact flows that the user can use the feature. And it's 66 pages for one feature. That's a huge. It's like design that cover everything in this feature. And because we have in the team someone that experience with testing, then he built a exact coverage that we want. Then he don't have the skills of coding, and it's okay because the team is hybrid. It doesn't mean that everybody need to know how to code, but we have another engineers that know how to do it very well. Then he deliver this spec or test to the coding engineer, and he start writing a code. And 1 week for this example, it was done, and from that day, we don't test this feature at all. Just sometimes we do like 10 minutes overview just to see that the colors are okay. Sometimes we don't do that in automation, then we need to do it manually. And imagine that we have a lot of features and we behave the same with all the features that we have. Our baseline to coverage is a regression plan. It means that we have a tree. This tree have the product, how the customers see, and not how developers see. You know, when you develop a new items, if you have a content that you using in your life cycle management, then this content, after it will be developed, it's like a garbage. You will not use it at all in later time or cases. Then what we find out that we need to build a tree, and this tree means what the customers see exactly. And here you can see that also we write all the details and what browsers we support and what we are testing. And for example, if we have the slide before, I will back again to here. If this feature should be in the product tree, and here I just need to do that, give a sign that it was automated and fully covered. And you know, sometimes it's not fully covered. Sometimes it's 50% was covered. Then in the 5 days in the end of the release, I will check this file and I will see, okay, we have full coverage for these features, then we will not test it manually. But some features have a less, not 100%, then we should give attention for that features. And this product tree is only an example, but it's a very long tree because the product is keep increasing. Each time we have a new release and new features, then imagine that each time we update this file. As you can see, it's a parts of the file. And in this case, I can understand what is covered by automation and what is not. And if not covered by automation, then I should test it manually. And when? That's a good question because we want to know when we can run a manual test. Then the event that we are using is in the end of the release, we are doing a 5 days regression testing for cases that was not covered by automation. Okay, then you saw before the slide of the daily work that an engineer is pushing code and the tester get this build and start testing the new features. Then what happened in case the automation is failed? Then actually we have automatic build blocker. That means if the developer push a new code and he didn't run the automation locally in his machines, then he damaged our product while developing. Then we automatically block, and it means no one can push more code, because imagine that one pushing a bad code that is not working and have a defect, and the automation failed. And another engineer come and push a new code, and also he have a bug, then it will be difficult to find the root cause for the defects. And if many engineers will do that, then a little bit will be messy. Then what we do, enough that one engineer push something that failed the automation, then directly dev is blocked. By now, dev, it means the branch name. It could be anything else. And after that, he will get an email directly that his code is blocked the branch, and he need to fix it. Then he go. Sometimes we help him to analyze the problem because we know the test better than him, more deeply than the engineers. Then we just give him a chance to fix the code, and he just fix the code and he push again. We will give him only for him a permission to push again. Then when he push again, the automation will start again. Then if it succeeded, then it will be open again for all the engineers around the world, and it will be green again. And by the way, it's a real screen monitor that you can find in the floor here and also in different sites around the world. And I want to show you example that, you know, that a QA or a tester block the branch for developers. It's like a bad thing to do for developers. They don't accept that easily. And I remember in that days at the beginning when I was saying that the build is red and is blocked, no one care about that. They don't care. We are a developer. We want to develop and we want to continue. Don't stop us. Then I start using a new methods. It's like auto lock, and then to send the email to the engineer that he need to fix. And in these days, it's more easy for me and for my team because the developers are more aligned. The mindset was changed. Then it's example, one of the testers in my team, she sent an email reminder that the dev is locked. And we find a defect because of that, and we open a defect. Then the developers are very stressed, and it's very important for them to fix the issue. Then it's a real story that one of the developers just came to one of my team, and he asked, just please open the branch, because he want to continue working, and he bring a lot of flowers that he had actually in his queue, but he just bring it to the cube of my team asking for open this branch. And this is another example that developers keep sending like, hurry, let's fix it, let's do it. I mean, what I'm trying to say in these slides, that how the mindset change, and they allow the testers because they trust them. They know that they know that testers in my team know how to code. They have a Git skills. They know how to use DevOps skills. Then they trust us more. And when we have this trust, then they can allow themselves to accept what we are doing, like blocking the branch while they are working. Frameworks. I have a high-level architecture of our frameworks, and I have the first icon is Jenkins or any other, tool for CI/CD. The Jenkins, in the end of the day, is the master. He, the automatic runner of everything. He can catch all the events and to start the right tasks for them. Then Jenkins, by the way, when we write a test automation, we save it in the same Git of the product. It means that you have all the code of the product, and you also can see the framework and the test that we write. It's also saved in Git. Jenkins use a model of Node.js. It's called Node.js grant, and this process is responsible to take the framework from Git and to build this framework on the machines. For example, if you are a developer, all what you need to do is just to pull the code from Git, then run a command that build the framework for you. Then there is no excuse today that I don't have your framework, I need to have a machine for that or that or that. Everyone can do it, even in your laptop or a CI/CD machine, or you can do it locally on any machine that you want. You just need to use the right commands that we give you, and you will have all the automation in your machine. And what kind of automation we have? We have a client testing framework for testing the UI. We are using a lot of API testing, and we are using Mocha. Mocha is actually a framework that cover API testing that's written in JavaScript. And we also have a cloud framework for testing AWS and Azure, and this framework, I will give you just one example later. It's a framework that we built manually in my team because it's a special need. You can find it in all the products around the world. And finally, the automation have one cause. It's to give me the results. In the end of the day, if the results, we have one test just failed, then you will see the red screen that I showed before. If it's green, then we will continue to work. If not, then we need to fix that. Another interesting new feature that we are using, it's a bot. A bot is something it's used today, and it have a research in Facebook and other companies around the world. The bot is actually connected to the Slack. Slack is this product, I'm not sure if everyone using, but in our teams we are using Slack to communicate. It make it easy to us to ask friends and colleagues what to do. But we have a new friend in this list, and the friend is called Beholder. It's our robot. This robot know how to do stuff that can help us. For example, we can from home, from the mobile, from anywhere, just send the question to this friend, this robot friend, and we can ask him, as you can see here, last failed build. In the middle of the screen you can see it, that one of my team called, his name is Or, and he's asking Beholder to give him the last failed builds. Then the robot know how to communicate with Jenkins, and he came back with the results. He said this branch was failed and this branch was failed. And we keep developing this process because, you know, sometimes you want to block the pushes from developers. And if you are at home and you can do it because you need a secured environment, stuff like that, then you just can use the application from phone, and you communicate this robot friend, and you ask him a thing. You say, okay, block all the pushes. I don't want that developers continue pushing because we have a problem. Then you can do it just in 3 words. And also you can get the succeed branch that was running, and more details and more information that you want to use in the daily work. It's like nice to have, it's not mandatory, you know. Our tests today are based on analytics in production. We have many tools that connected to the product. And let's take a Google Analytics example. It's an old one, but anyway, you can see that what browsers customers are using and what version of browsers. Then at the beginning, when I start testing the product, I said, okay, no one today using Explorer. But after 2 releases, I start checking this analytics, and I said, okay, I was wrong, because there's the enterprise company is still using Internet Explorer. Then I changed the focus to be in the automation and also in manual testing in the daily work to be also in Internet Explorer. Then I find out that Safari is not in the list. Then at the beginning I wanted to invest more in Safari. Then I said, okay, no one uses Safari. Then I need to give it like low priority. In the second half of the page, you can see what kind of pages the users keep using. Then from there I can understand where to focus in what pages and what more interesting customers, and then I can understand what flows they are doing. And in this way I can make sure that our test, and because you know I can't test everything, I can test a lot but not everything, then I need to be focused, especially when we deliver in 1.5 months. We don't have 1 year for test all the product. Then our focus is based on analytics that we do in production. Another tools that we build in my team is API Discover tool. Each time that the developer develop a new API, sometimes, you know, we missed that, or he didn't write the content in the lifecycle management, that we didn't see it. Any reason, I don't want to drill down for these reasons, but in this tool we just sync with the product and we can find all the APIs that was added. And also, we built a database to maintain the information. For example, let's take an example. Each time that one of the API added to the product, then we just give an owner. This owner is responsibility to write the automation. And where you can see done in the status, it means that it was automated. And sometimes you can see skipped because it was deprecated. And you can see the total of the APIs, how many new that should be automated, and what was done and what was skipped. This tool is like very good to have because it will make it easy to follow and understand the coverage. Another tool that I will talk about it very fast because we are testing on the cloud. Then I want to measure and the costs that we have. Sometimes we have $1,000. Then we have many machines. We have QA1, QA2, and this is the name of the environments. Then I just select the environment and I say, okay, from this date to that date, I want to understand what is the cost that we have in my team. And this way I can manage the expense of the testing. Cloud testing, as I mentioned before, we have 19 locations today in the cloud, and each one of these locations have it responds, because it's a performance testing tool. It responds with 11 different metrics. Then we wrote automation that cover all these locations, and we test each location with the 11 metrics that we have, and we run 3 kind of scripts in each location. And by the way, each location have 2 different type of running. It's the image, what I mentioned there. Then actually we have about 1,200 plus tests that we need to run. And imagine that every day developers keep pushing new code to these locations. And if I want to do it manually, then just for the 1,000 tests, I need 1 month only with all my team just to run one kind of test. Then this solution allows us today to deliver the product in 1.5 months. Without this solution, then we keep testing manually, no delivery each 1.5 months. It's one of the most challenging things that we have, but we actually managed to write a massive infrastructure framework to handle all the cloud regions. And here's the report. You can see all the report, and in case you can see in the middle there is a failed. What was failed? It will give me the metrics that was failing, and to understand it's not just failed, I need the expected. Without expected, there is no any reason to run any test, I think. Test environments, we actually as a test team, we can work locally on our machines because we have the skills of using Git, and we can pull the code, deploy it on our machines, and continue working. We also have the QA machines that automatically deployed each time that the automation is green, and anyone can use these machines. We have like 2 machines like QA, and we have a security machine that the security team are using for testing. We have the performance, and we have the integration for third party, and we have the staging, because without staging we can't go to production. This is like mandatory policy in the enterprise companies to do a staging that it's the most close to production. Then if we test there and we find that everything is okay, then we'll move to production. And finally, the hotfix in 1 day. This is a real example that was 1 year ago, I think. At 7 morning, we have a production bug. It came from the support team. And then the first thing we do is research by QA and Dev, because the QA, as mentioned before, they have the most experience in customer flows. Then we find the issue and start fixing the bug at 10 o'clock. Then we start testing after finishing that in local machines. Then after we finished and we saw that everything is okay and running the automation and the automation was green, then we move to the staging. Then we also do automation test on staging and the manual test for the fix, and then we just push to production. It's in one day the customer will be happy and have the solution in his product. And here we come to the end. I just want you to, from my experience, I wrote a couple of articles, and I'm actually writing in the Tech Beacon. You can find there many other articles that are very interesting about testing, developing, and the modern applications. And this is one of the articles that I wrote, and you can, in your free time, maybe just to check these articles or even different articles that my colleagues wrote before and actually are very interesting. And I just want to give you one tip, that it doesn't matter what technology you are using or what engineers you have. All what you need to focus on is the mindset. You need to understand that the developers, testers, managers, product managers, and product officer should understand the change that we have today, the reason that we need to deliver every month or even 2 weeks. And then we need to change the mindset about the testers and the QAs, and how they should be more close to developers and be more involved in the daily process, and to trust them more because they have more skills. They know how to code, they know how to use Git and how to ask DevOps to do tasks. Then finally, it's only the mindset that should be changed before any technology. And here we come to the end, and I will be happy to hear questions from you if you have any question.
All right. Thank you, Karim, for that very, very comprehensive presentation. And I'm sure all our listeners have a lot of questions. And to all our listeners, you can start typing in all your questions. And while you do that, we have a couple of questions right now for Karim. So starting off with, we have the first question here. How do you do the best API testing?
First of all, we need to map all the API that we have in the product. And as I mentioned before, we have a tool that scans all the APIs. And when we know what APIs we have, we just write a negative test for this API, not negative, the flow that should be. And we also write a security test for the API, and we give a not valid value and a valid value. It's only an example. It means each API will be covered with more than one flow. And in this case, we can understand that if one customer or user will use it without the interface UI, then we are covered.
All right. So the next question that we have here is that shouldn't we also do a automation code checking, basically going through all the coding standards or code quality for the automation code that we are writing? Is it also a part of continuous integration?
The question is referring to the code of the developers or the automation code?
The automation code.
We actually don't, but we have a code review. Each one that writes a new test, he must have a focal point that have more experience, that he review his code to understand that his code is okay and it doesn't damage anything else.
Okay, so
but we don't have automatic.
Okay, all right. So it's not a part of the continuous integration process, or is it also a part of that whole thing?
No, it's not a must.
Okay, all right. So the next question that we have here is that how do you improve DevOps knowledge for a tester?
Yeah, it's a very good question. What we do, we keep sending them to, first of all, inside the teams, the developers, the DevOps, and the QA, they keep sharing knowledge. They have like reserve a meeting room, and each one of them presents something about how to use logs, how to read logs, how to debug, for example, in Chrome, and stuff like that. And even how to write CSS, stuff like not related sometimes to the daily work, but we keep sharing the knowledge between us. And we have another level. The company give us courses that we do. And in my job as a manager, then I need to focus. Like I see somebody that is very good in coding, then I keep sending him Node.js, basic Node.js, then advanced Node.js. Then I will send them to AngularJS because we are learning Angular. But he learned as a developer, but he use it for testing. And we treat them as a DevOps, as a developer, as a customer. Then we send them all these courses at the same year.
All right. So in the meanwhile, along with the questions, we are also getting quite a bit of notifications around your presentation, and a lot of our listeners really liked your entire presentation. And I would also like to inform all of you that you will be getting the slide deck and the video for the webinar in your mailboxes by sometime tomorrow. So if you have any more questions right now, now's the time to put them in. And so moving ahead with the questions that we have here, once again, which framework is better for testing, Selenium or Jenkins?
Actually, we are using both. We are using Selenium for testing the UI, and the Selenium is the engine of the testing. And I mentioned before in one of the slides that Jenkins was in the top of the slide because he's the executor. He is the engine that know when to run the tests. Let's take an example. If one push new code, then Jenkins is listening. Then he know that one pushed the code. Then he go to Selenium and say to Selenium, okay, you need now to run. You need to run with all the packages that you have, all the tests that we wrote for you. Then Selenium start working. And this is the connection between them.
Great. So another question that we have here is how to build confidence in manual QA, as now automation has become a mandatory part of the entire QA process. So how do you still keep building or developing manual QA?
Yes, actually, I have two experienced manual testers in my team. At the beginning, when I was building this team, I said to myself, okay, what I will do with them? But I'm a DevTest. I'm a modern QA. Then they don't write code. Then even in the end of the year, I said in the goals, you need to write code. Then I find out that these areas, they are not strong. Then I need to take something strong and to make it more stronger, and not to take a weak area and to ask them to do better. I don't want to waste time. Then I make them, one of them is a user experience consulting, that he give help for all the team for any something that is not user experience. And the second guy in the team, he's a test builder. He write all the manual tests for features. Then he deliver it for a coding skills person. Then he can automate that. Then they now feel that they have a very important position. At the beginning, they had the feeling that they have nothing to do in this team. But I find this area that they can be strong. And believe me, I think that this is one of the things that I need in my team. I will never, I will make sure that they will stick to my team.
Okay, so you're saying that even with all the QA automation that has come into the picture, manual QA is still important to, make the team function better?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, next up the question is, do you have any points that should be kept in mind if you are offering QA as a service to enterprises?
Yes, first of all, it's depend based on the product. First of all, we should understand what product the customer have, and then to build a plan on top of that. Let's say to understand the technology, the architecture, and what kind of automation can be fit to this product. Then to build a plan and to send like a team members, and each one what he is strong in and how he can give a solution for this company, for this product. It's like divide the task, like say this is automation strong engineer, this is a manual tester, and this is very strong in DevOps. Then all together are a very good combined team that can give a solution with this infrastructure that are fit to your product. And this is the flow that I can think about.
All right. Next up, we have a question that is specific to Selenium. And so the question is it a better practice to start the Selenium WebDriver with Python language?
I like Python, but I said and I mentioned that it's better to have the same language that the developers are using. Because in this case, we have a win-win. We can give a help from them in a difficult code that we are writing because they have more experience. And we can also push the code in the same source code instead to have like a separated source code. And this two thing I think is very important. But in case that you are testing something that are not related to the product, like a service for a customer or solution, then you can use Python. Actually, I like this language.
Cool. So here you mentioned one important thing, that is keeping the language similar to what the developers are using for the product. So this is one area where QA and the QA team and the developer should be in sync. Are there any other areas or aspects that you can think of where this kind of a sync is necessary, where things should be similar so that the entire process can move faster?
Yes. What you mentioned now, this question is related to be very close to developers. In these days, you can, if you come to the site where we are working, you can't understand who's the developer and who's the tester. And why is that? First of all, we mentioned that we have the same base code, we're using the same tools. For example, if we are using IntelliJ, then the developer also using IntelliJ. And another something is very important. We are involved in the design meetings. In the design meetings in the first days of the product. Because I mentioned before that we are the customers, then we know what customer thinks. And we have a lot of meetings with customers. Then the design meetings with the functional architect or the product manager and the developers. Then in this meeting, we have something to say. Sometimes we say, okay, we don't feel that this feature is okay. The customer will feel bad with using that feature. You should change it to be like this or that. Then from the first day, they can feel that the tester have something to say, and he's not just testing. He's more than that because he have more skills to do. And then we keep continue working on the feature with the product manager and the developers and writing the automation and do a manual test until we deliver the feature. Then there's a lot of close work with developers, and not only developers, with also product manager and other stakeholders in the product.
All right. So that was one thing. The next question we have is, which automation tool would be best for mobile testing?
It's a very good question. As you know, I'm presenting the company that I'm working in. We have a product that called the Mobile Center that was developed 1 year ago. That it's giving a very good coverage for devices, and it also have an on-premise installation, or you can use it by a software as a service that we give devices in the lab that we have. But you know, it's a new product and it's 2 years and it's keep increasing with customers, a lot of customers buying this product. What I can suggest is just to check the Mobile Center product that also, by the way, it's connected to other kind of testing products like performance and security at HPE. But you know, the market is open. You can check any product that's available.
All right. So I think I'll have one last question here. If none of our other participants have any questions. So the one question that I have here is that you mentioned about the training phase for testers. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? As in, how does that whole thing proceed? Do you have experienced people coach them, or is it everything upon themselves to, find new modules and find new skills to learn?
Yeah, then the first day that an engineer come to the team, as I mentioned, if he is experienced or not, I less care about that because he need to do this training that we have. And there is many sessions that he need to do. Some of them is self training that he need to learn. For example, I ask an engineer, you have a session to learn Node.js. Then he go, and then he have exercises to do. But sometimes, for example, about the product, he have a session with many engineers from the team that understand the product in deep knowledge and as a customer. Then it's like combined with self-learning, with engineers from the product, and also courses that we send. It's like three kind of learning types. And all of them, it's end in 2 months. And in this 2 months or 1.5, we don't ask this engineer a lot of things to do. We just let him to feel that he's working with us, to feel the team, but we don't ask him to do stuff because this is the only 2 months that he can learn all the technical skills that we want. And let's say that this is his responsibility in the end, because when we send him to a course or to sit with an engineer or to have a self-learning, in the end he should have the responsibility to do that in the best way that he can.
All right. I think we've got one more question in the meantime, which is what would be the best way to do security testing for a product?
Yeah, it's not easy area because we need experienced engineers that all what they do is only security. But let's say that we don't have, because teams sometimes built without this, they can allow themselves to have a security team. In this case, there is a lot of trainings that penetration testing, for example, that they can help the engineers that while they are testing, for example, an API, to do a security test also, to inject something that is not correct, or to do a negative testing. Then this is the basic. But if you have a special team, then they will have the resources to do that, to have more, maybe like a money or a budget that they can allow themselves to buy. Another thing to add, also there is a code scanning that it finds bugs, security bugs in the code before that it's deployed even. Then there are some tools that are available that could be very helpful, and these tools, by the way, can be connected to the CI/CD. Then you don't need to feel this. You don't need to run it manually. You just connect it as you connect Selenium test, and you will have a report in the end. And if you don't have all of that, then you just need to make sure that the team will be with more skills in security and to test it manually if they can.
All right. I think we've got really this, and this will be the last question that we will be taking. And if our listeners have any more questions, they should send them into webinars@srijan.net, and we will get Karim to answer all of your questions for you. But right now we are taking this last question, which is how to do database testing.
Sorry, the what kind of test?
How to do a database testing.
Yeah, it's very good question. We have an example for database testing. We are testing migration. Migration, it means that we take the production data with tenants that we have, because for security reasons we can't take customers' data. Then we have accounts for us, for my team, that we testing in the production because we need this data one day. And what we do, we take an image from from production, and then we install the new product on top of that, because we want to test what will happen if a customer will do update for them. He will not do update, but it will be automatic update. Then what will happen to his old data? Then what we are doing actually, we have a JavaScript layer that connect to to the database directly. And we ask the database, okay, give me that information. And when we pull the information, everything in JSON today in our product, then we test this JSON if it's as expected or not. Then what I'm trying to say, to test the database, we are using API from the product that communicate the database. But if sometimes it's not enough for us, then we write a new APIs for us for testing that communicate the database directly. And you know, if you are using JavaScript, there's a lot of Node.js modules that can help you. For example, if you are using Postgres, then you can find a Postgres module that will do this communication for you. And it's also for any other language that you have or any other database.
All right, so I think with that we have come to the end of today's session, and I would like to thank all our participants for the great engagement and all the questions, and I'd like to thank Karim for the great presentation and patiently taking up all the questions and answering them. So that's all for tonight, and I would like to inform you that our next webinar is on the 30th of November, and the details for which will be in your inbox soon, along with the slide deck and the presentations. So that's all for tonight. Once again, thank you all our listeners, and thank you, Karim, for joining us today.
Thank you.